The US Supreme Court is about to consider one of its most important cases in decades. It's one that will affect the lives of millions of Americans and could upend the presidential election race. Tomorrow, America's highest court will hear arguments in a legal bid to overturn Barack Obama's controversial overhaul of the US health system. The court is expected to deliver its verdict later this year. Passed by Congress 2 years ago, the health reforms prohibit denial of coverage because of pre-existing conditions and extends health cover to millions of previously uninsured Americans. But opponents have long insisted that it is government overreach and unconstitutional. From Washington, Craig McMurtry reports.
And we're going to put someone new into the White House.
It's been 2 years. They haven't forgotten. Tea Party activists still maintain the rage over what they deride as Obamacare.
This Constitution matters.
They're demanding the repeal of Barack Obama's signature healthcare law aimed at extending insurance to 30 million Americans. Now its fate rests on the 9 justices of the US Supreme Court, 5 Conservatives, 4 Liberals, who'll decide if it stands or falls. And in a presidential election year, the stakes couldn't be higher.
I am one of those who's inclined to see this as a very activist conservative court. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they overturned it.
The bill is passed.
The defining piece of legislation of his presidency, it features prominently in the latest Obama campaign film.
When my mom got cancer, she wasn't a wealthy woman, and it pretty much drained all her resources.
She developed ovarian cancer, never really had good, consistent insurance.
I want to know if it's coming out of my paycheck, yes or no.
After a bitter political fight and claims of creeping socialism, the Affordable Care Act passed Congress 2 years ago without any Republican votes. In an avalanche of legal cases, 26 states have fought it all the way to America's highest court, arguing that it represents an abuse of federal power. Opponents like appellate lawyer Eric Jaffe argue it's unconstitutional for the US government to force Americans to buy health insurance or face a penalty.
This forces people to enter into contracts they don't want to enter into, and thus violates the traditional principle of mutual assent.
The theory behind having the requirement that everyone have coverage is so you can spread the risk, so that it becomes an economically viable plan.
Court watchers say it's possible the 9 justices could defer the question until the penalty comes into effect, well after the presidential election.
I very much hope they won't do that, because I think one way or the other this ought to be an issue in the election, and we should either argue about the Affordable Care Act if it's sustained, or argue about conservative judicial activism if it's not sustained.
A senior Justice Department lawyer in the Bush administration, Stephen Bradbury, argues that if one part of the healthcare package is ruled unconstitutional, it should all be thrown out.
It was all intended to work together as a piece. If one falls, the whole statute should fall.
Observers say there hasn't been anything like it since legal challenges against FDR's New Deal. There have never been as many friend of the court legal briefs filed on an issue before. America's highest court has set aside 3 days for oral arguments. That's more than any other case in 45 years. Commentator E.J. Dion says a decision to overturn it wouldn't necessarily deliver a knockout blow to Barack Obama's re-election chances.
This would be a defeat for President Obama, and conservatives would be able to say, see, we were right all along, this was unconstitutional. However, it would take away an issue from the conservatives that they want to fight the election on. Therefore, it could help Obama, and it might allow Obama to go on the offensive.
All the Republican 2012 presidential contenders have vowed to repeal it.
The president's not giving speeches on Obamacare, and that's for a reason. Most Americans want to get rid of it, and we're among those Americans. I want to get rid of it too.
Let me assure you, as President of the United States, we will have a robust system that puts you in charge of the healthcare system after we repeal Obamacare.
Much of the Affordable Care Act is yet to come into effect, But the White House says already coverage has been extended to 2.5 million young Americans, with millions more saving hundreds of dollars on the cost of prescription drugs. But to the dismay of supporters like lobbyist Emily Spitzer, opinion polls show a majority of Americans still oppose it.
I think because of all the political rhetoric, a lot of people don't understand how it helps them.
A survey of US law experts has found most think the Supreme Court will, in the end, uphold it.
On the law, I know we're right. I know this is a constitutional statute, and I trust and hope that the Supreme Court will do the right thing.
What do we want? Healthcare. When do we want it?
But like many, she's nervous. Craig McMurtry, Lateline.